Hey, what's going on? Real quick before the episode starts, I just want to point out that we do a little bit of mid-show editing to the audio. So about 2 minutes in, Will's volume's going to come a little bit down to meet mine, and hopefully the rest of it, I think it sounds good in the playback, but hopefully on export it sounds good as well. So I just wanted to point that out. Rare little intro here. I hope I'm not wearing the same. No, I'm not wearing the same clothes. So, yes, this is the day after. Hope you like the episode. Check us out, and thanks for watching. All right, here we go.
The Wannabes, Season 2, Episode 20. My name is JD.
What's up? It's your boy Wassabi. How's it? How are you doing today, JD?
I'm good. I'm doing really good. I'm a little piped up. I got my second cup of coffee. It's late afternoon, but it's a beautiful day out. A lot to talk about today, man. We have
Yeah,
a
we
lot
got
of
a big
little things.
episode.
A lot
Yeah,
of,
we got a big episode as we were like just doing our like 5 minute briefing.
mm-hmm.
It's gonna be a big episode, so I'm kind of excited to just kind of hop into it.
Yeah, me too. All right, so let's start with some stuff. You actually didn't tell me about what exactly is going on, but you've been playing some Melee, and let's just do a check-in. What's the Wasabi corner looking like?
Yeah. Before we hit up with like all the other announcements and stuff like that, because it's a doozy of an episode. I can't stress that enough, honestly. But Melee, it's been on my mind, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
As so this is more of a player, but your boy is finally getting to play in the TMT bracket today in like a few hours, in like 5 hours. And
What was preventing that?
my skill level.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know, I just put a tweet out like yesterday about it, and it isn't really much. Like, so to get TMT, like to make it into the main bracket, you either have to like sometimes you're like kind of like floated in if you have like good results elsewhere, which I don't since I switched. And then also then you have to do a ladder. And the way it works is if you make it into all-star, right? It goes like rookie, pro, rookie, it's like novice, rookie, pro, all-star, right? And if you do that, you're automatically in. Doesn't matter how many tries it takes.
Oh.
And then after that, after like whoever makes it all to all-star, it's whoever has the best win ratio with 8 or more games. So you don't have to get to all-star. You can just win 8 straight and get 100%, and you're like definitely qualified in, because not a lot of people really go the all-star route because it kind of takes time. And it's risky. It's a risky thing. You could lose and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And so I've been trying to enter it and just like put myself out there, just because like I need to practice being in tournament pressure, and it's really great. It's just like a bunch of best of threes, like one after the other. And yesterday, not only did I make it to All-Star, but I went 12-3 on the ladder, which I'm really, really happy about. It wasn't my best day. Like even going into it, it was like clearly a B day type of game, but that almost makes it like a little bit more special, to the point where I like felt like putting out a tweet, because I know like, and I said this, it's like not really that special, and I know that like a lot of players qualify for it, a lot of good players as well. But like as this like kind of like journey to kind of get myself back to like my old self, especially in bracket, this small victory like really meant a lot. Not just because I kind of grinded to get to all-star, but I'm like pretty happy with like the record of 12-3. One of those I lost to like Azel Sheik,
Sure.
and stuff like that. And it's just been a long journey, so it's kind of finally nice to like play not even anywhere close to like my A game, like a solid B, and still like kind of perform like that under pressure. And I think like I'm just really happy with it. And I think like in relearning the box, like something I definitely forgot as a player was like kind of like enjoying kind of those like smaller moments and victories. And as like kind of we play more and more, it's like, oh, I placed my seed, or I did whatever. And it's like, man, like a year ago, like pre-COVID, I would never care about like making it out of ladder. And now I'm like, I definitely like just was like smiling and like super happy with myself, and so exhausted afterwards too. Like mentally,
a lot
it
of
was very
sets.
draining.
Was it
Yeah.
12-3 in games or sets?
Sets.
Damn, dude. Jesus.
Yeah. And like some of the players I played, like at least yesterday was like Daryl, the Samus from NorCal,
Mm-hmm.
Justice the Fox from Texas, like are some of the ones I'm like
Who did you?
particularly happy with.
But you beat both of them?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah,
impressive.
yeah. No, ladder's tough, dude. Ladder's like a wild west of, you know, it's tough. People enter.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, 12-3 is impressive, and I wasn't gonna ask you to list off everyone. That's 15 sets. Who are your losses? I guess.
Uh, Azel, this guy, this box fox player named Mello, and this really solid Falcon named Anjo,
Okay.
and they're really really good players, and like I think it's just again like getting back like it's and kind of the overarching thing I want to get out is like one like in this podcast we celebrate the small victories,
Mm-hmm.
and we've always done it, and this particularly means a lot to me, even if it's like clearly just a stepping stone,
Sure.
in the process. But the other thing that kind of like I wanted to get at, and as I say this, it's the thought literally just escaped my tongue.
That's
JD.
okay. Do you want me to,
Um,
to share some thoughts while you gather?
yeah. Share some thoughts, please.
Sure. Well, yeah, small victories definitely a running theme, and I think it's worth repeating every single time because that's kind of the practice of what we're going for, because we know to celebrate and to kind of have a medium rare kind of temperature with it where we want to enjoy it. It's there. Like, this is what life is. This is why we enjoy it so much and why we keep doing it, is like those moments.
Mhm.
And then how that kind of energy, or maybe not energy, maybe enthusiasm a little bit, maybe joy, just very general happiness about it, starts to dwindle, and we're going back to our day to day, and then it becomes a thing that happened 3 days ago, 4 days ago, and then a thing you hardly remember how it feels.
Mhm.
That's like, kind of where this podcast and just talking about it really helps the process along. And so it's always meta here. It's always self-reflection type stuff. But yeah, just I think a big part of absorbing it is talking about it. And that's a huge perk that we have that I think is starting to pay dividends. I don't want to take credit for your recent success. I'm going to a little bit, but having I think you having an outlet for these kind of very specific and consistent yet strong emotions tied to your work and tied to your ego in a sense, and tied to like something you value so strongly, having that sort of back and forth outlet and input, I think it's helping you along. I think it if we could go back in time and do a side by side of maybe if you didn't have an outlet like this, I wonder how it would have affected your past 6 to 8 months. I think it's a good thing. I think what you're doing and the kind of approaches you're taking got you here, and that's literally as we're doing it now. It's just now we have some data. Now it's not just a few months of practicing on the box by yourself, which is hard to gauge. It's impossible to gauge how good you're getting. Now it's like end game type stuff. Now it's or late game, not end game, late game type stuff where you're entering tournaments, you're entering brackets, you're trying to qualify for things, you're trying to get ranked in whatever rankings are going to exist, and then push towards that first major. Like, we're in the early late game right now, and I don't know, it's cool seeing this data, especially from my bird's eye view, completely on like that second, third layer of witnessing all this. It's exciting, and every time you bring up a tournament result, I just think, yeah, that's a really good attitude. So
Yeah.
good shit.
Yeah, and I love you said like kind of like an outlet, because I definitely agree with that. And like part of this podcast and like even switching to the box, I feel like I've learned like on it, like relearning and like kind of being like really bad at the game for a longer period of time. Like
Sure.
there's so much, like the whole process has been really cool, and I'm still learning from it, but like there's so much more gratitude I have with things now, like even being able to play with like good players, like, and then this kind of brings me up to the next thought that I forgot about earlier, but like even being able to play like with good players, like there's so much more gratitude in like this is the process, this is what I need to do to like grow and improve. And I definitely like even at like peak Wassabi HNC, days, right? Like I think like there was like a like okay, like this is what I'm supposed to do, like okay, I just need to like keep pushing in there, but like there wasn't like a lot of like I think there was, but I just like it wasn't as like purposeful or conscious of like this time like I need to work on like X thing, or like wow, like someone like I don't know, like Shabo or like Umarth are players I play like on a more regular basis now, like or homemade waffles. I'm like wow, like these players are playing with me, and I can just like kind of like trust them that they'll keep on like just like kind of beating me up until I kind of like as I grow and improve and stuff like that. And I think like you forget that, especially like once you hit like local PR level, and then you
Sure.
kind of have like a rep for so that you like kind of expect the games to happen, like to come to you. And I think like there's just so much more gratitude. But the one thing that you mentioned about like putting yourself out there, like and having like now a very small sliver of tangible results is this again that idea of putting yourself out there, and that's kind of the broader thing I wanted to get to, because it's just like dude, it's scary, like it's
Yeah.
so scary to like put myself out there again, especially knowing that I'm not like, and I'm not saying this as like a John because it's like the decision I made as a player, but like like to switch, and there's sometimes where like it literally snowballs into like a horrible thing where I'm side being onto stage and just like missing ledge dashes or missing inputs,
The
and it
bottom
snowballs really
drops
hard.
out. Like,
The bottom drops out real quick.
hmm.
Hands are shaking, and like there's nothing to ground the hands, and because you're just kind of floating them over the box, and
Sure.
so they're kind of like it's like this. But it's really tough to put yourself out there, and I was thinking about this again because I even though I made the Melee Online Discord and kind of have access to all the channels, I was like understandably like moved to like expert, like the second highest tier, or expert versus like masters, because like I switched to the box and
Wait,
like
were you? Wait, hold on. You're not in Masters?
no, I've been an expert for like a long time. Like since the swap. No one told me, but it just like happened one day, and I'm like, this makes sense. Like I'm not mad. And like I'm more of a now like a shadow admin. Like it's funny because I can see the masters chat and see everything, but
Sure.
like just to honor like the ranking team's decisions and all the work that they do, and
Sure.
like I'm not gonna make a big deal about it. And so I was like, yeah, expert is where I belong. And it's funny because like just before this podcast, I just put an application to like be like, hey, can I maybe get masters? And honestly, like I even talked with like Justin, who I know is like one on the team, and he doesn't have
Yep.
full say of it, of course, but it's like you might need a little bit more win results, and I understand that. And I'm kind of like now facing the feeling of like, geez, I'm putting myself out there, being like, hey, can I get this thing? And knowing full well that it might be a little bit too early, or it might be a no. And I think like, and I can hold that feeling without also feeling like I'm a bad player as well, And I think like I'm really talking about putting it out there. It's just bringing up a lot of interesting feelings, especially as I'm about to head into playing into bracket in 5 hours, right?
Hmm.
Uh, and it's crazy because like I was talking with this PLR over lunch. I'm like, I'm happy I put it out there, and like whether I did it or not doesn't make me any less nervous about like the bracket tonight. But like that's the point. Like I need to just like keep putting myself out there, keep on getting the practice, and like and treating like the tournaments as like just reps, like anything else. Like if I cave and bottom out, as you said, like that's just part of like kind of the practice that I kind of need to like build. And so
Yeah.
it's honestly like as a friend, like I'm definitely scared, I'm definitely like nervous, but I'm like, this is what I need to do to be a better player. And like I think that's like kind of the end of it, and that feeling of wanting to be a better player like just always beats out the nervousness, but I'm still like scared as hell, JD.
Yeah. Well, I think that makes it more valuable. It makes it painful, right? Like
Yeah.
facing fear is a very real sort of pain, a temporary pain that almost can be
Mhm.
like is almost counterweighed by how it feels after to do it. You kind of repay yourself in that positivity, but man, yeah, I totally get it. So I know you're probably gonna do a mixture of practice and mental prep and maybe physical prep too.
Yeah.
Can't ignore the mind, body, and soul there.
Hmm.
And I do think that yeah, again, you have a good perspective on it because it is a stepping stone, but it's a legit thing. It's something to take seriously, and you are. Um, and so you're never gonna hit it perfect of like striking the right balance of how do you have the right amount of stress, for example, and to bring it to, you know, something relatable to me and how I'm the lens I'm viewing this through. I really like the focus on putting yourself out there because, one, we've talked about tournaments being its own thing, and I think framing it as a like that ego thing, that putting yourself out there, the rejection sensitivity type stuff is probably one of the biggest facets of why tournament experience is so important, because one, it gets less painful over time. I mean, you and I are both so out of the tournament scene that we have to build that muscle again. So that's a part of it, is that it's going to get easier over time. And two, it's, you know, the idea of, outside of just tournaments, but anything, job interviews and sending applications has a very similar feeling to it. For me, it's this new podcast I'm releasing where, you know, I have the footage for like two and a half episodes. Mm-hmm. I've edited about an episode or so, and I'm waiting on the logo, and I'm like, all right, like once this is out, I'm trying to make it a lifestyle thing, and it's a thing I'm scared of too, you know? Mm-hmm. And so I think that stress, and the other thing that I perceive this through is when I was more into doing stand-up, where, you know, for a couple of months here and there, I would do maybe once or twice a month. I would go up, and those times were a lot easier because it's not, you know, a huge gap in between. And shit, fucking, I wasn't very good at stand-up. I got a few laughs here and there, but I never killed, you know? So mm-hmm. at that stage, and I'm dying to go back up at some point in my life, but, you know, it feels similar to, you know, going to tournaments and having it mean something again. And the first HNC felt that much weight. And then consider, you know, think about the first HNC versus the sixth, you know, how yeah. those felt, where, you know, they might be equal in terms of, you know, how happy we were to be there. That never went away. But there was that sense of just kind of, you know, strapping on the power bracelet or whatever metaphorical 80s term you think of when you think of someone, you know, gearing up for a big computer event, and just showing up and doing it, and then going home and doing it next week. You're just starting that process up again, and, you know, it's exercising muscles and exercising parts of your ego that you just straight up haven't really had the opportunity to, or it wasn't really time for it. I think you did pick a good time to get into tournaments, by the way. I don't know if you're, you know, saying, oh, I should have done this earlier, I should have done it right away, or because you did delay
really.
it.
Yeah, I did delay it. Not really. I think it was that. It just felt like time. It was like just the right amount of like, I definitely don't want to do it, but I could do it.
Sure.
And that was kind of where I was like, and then again, like I heard Leffen like on I think like week 1 of SEL being like, yeah, like you gotta practice, like just like being in the pressure cooker, like that is practice, like at the local level, at the regional level, at the major level. And I was like, and I've just been going into it like, this is literally just another form of practice for me.
Yeah.
It means everything. Like it means a lot to me, and there will be like pain and sadness and happiness all in it. But like in the end, it is practicing for another moment down the line. Yeah. And I think that's what's been kind of pushing me, because like before it's just like, and I think I've only was able to understand that like after like the years of like just like blindly entering every NEBS or HNC there was, right? Mm-hmm. Like I don't think like, I think before I entered every tournament as a way to possibly prove myself and my skill, and that feeling definitely still comes up to this day. But I'm trying to say a little bit louder in my head, like this is just practice, like everything else.
Yeah, man. Well, you know, we do have some other topics to get into. I really want to make sure we're touching everything here.
No, that was it. Those were my closing thoughts. So you don't have to worry about that. Let's head into the next thing. Where do we want to go, JD, in this list of topics?
Well, I'm happy to keep you on the hot seat here, because the two topics that we have after this next one involve both of us. So this one's definitely more Will centric, but I gotta pop off for you, man. That video you released was very good. You teased it on the last Wannabes episode. You just said, "Oh, I have a thing that's coming out," and I think I saw the first draft at that point, and I was like, "Yeah, I don't want to talk about it right now," and I'm glad I didn't because the final product was definitely a final product compared to a draft, and it was great. And why don't you say a little bit about the video? You know what? You don't have to brag about yourself. If you miss any spots about bragging, I'll step in. But why don't you fill everyone in on what's going down?
Yeah. I'll just talk about the video first. Like, again, like it's kind of this idea that I had that I've always wanted to do a feel good, like melee montage. Like there are moments in I feel like every player's career when they're just starting up, like just after seeing the doc or after like getting invited to a tournament and you're coming back, there's like 1-2 montages that like stand out that you rewatch over and over again. You show all of your friends, and all of your friends are like, I don't get it. And you're like, fuck you.
Except
Like,
that
for
one
me,
friend that does.
except that one friend. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And like for me, I remember those moments where like there was a Lucky swagging video that like had a lot of good sound bites in it, like opening it up. There was and that featured like a lot of like Lucky's run in Big House 4 and like SSS days. And another one was Ninji, who like he did like a lot of like cool editing montages, like similar to like Turn Down for Walt's like earlier stuff, right?
Sure,
And then
sure.
eventually Turn Down for Walt's earlier stuff, which now he's known by everyone in the community, so shouts to him. But I kind of wanted to make something like that, and I kind of did it in like I love soccer, and melee gives me that same feeling, that same rush, especially after SCL week 3, and that's I went in with the idea of like melee and soccer combining those two loves for me, that excitement, that energy, and also the end goal being like I want this video to be like etched into someone's brain who's just starting out the game, who like just fell in love with it, and then this video sinks them a level deeper, because I think like our obsession with melee are just there are moments where we've sunk deeper into loving the game.
Yep.
Right? There are specific moments, whether that's making top 64 at Super Smash Con with you like back in like 2017, 2016, or 2015 I think it was, and then or like other things like top 64 for Royal Flush for me.
I have videos too. I think videos are a great example. Like just videos that come to my head. One was the remember the one that was a community montage and it had Sunday Candy by Chance.
Yes, that was so good.
That was one that was like 2015. I'm like, oh, so good.
Yeah,
2016 or something.
One of my favorite ones, and it came later on, was someone made the world's coolest thing featuring
sounds really familiar.
Cactuar and Zoo. And just the line of like, my coolest thing in the world is Super Smash Bros. Melee. And it was like not about their combos, not about their success, but more about just like why they love the game, the community, and how it's improved them. Arguably, that's almost like the father of like how this podcast became. At least like internally, subconsciously, that video left like is etched into my brain, as I said. So that was the goal, and I'm just really, really happy of how well received it was, and even asking some friends, like I thought I was proud enough, and I think this says a lot. I was proud enough to like ask for a retweet here and there for some people because I knew that like the video was good. And I am proud of I gotta give shout outs to specifically Ventus, Walt, Joe Young, and like Phil being like the test subjects mainly, and Phil as well being like the 5 kind of main test subjects that kind of like saw all the different versions and stuff like that and got their opinion to really make the final cut, because like the editing process was like the toughest out of all my videos, because like I actually had to like hear them, and all I wanted to hear was like, this video's sick, like yeah, it's good, and they always came back with comments, and I was like,
yeah,
and there was that ego where I was like, okay, let's try it, let's do it, and it just transformed the video. And so it was a learning process for me as well, where I'm so proud like of this video, honestly, and that's, I have nothing else to say about that.
I mean, shit, that last thing you said outside, regardless of the video, the idea of kind of having, again, your ego, right? It was, I want them to say, yo, this video's sick, and have it be from someone you respect in that field. But you can't say, tell me this is good. You have to say, what are your thoughts? And so you're opening yourself up to that. But, your ego's probably telling you like, hey man, they're just gonna say it's good. Like this is flawless. They can't possibly find anything to improve. And this is me too, right? Like I do this shit
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
time, and and then they come back, and it's funny because you're misled by yourself, and it's a folly, but it turns into something good, both for your experience and skill, but for the product that you're making. And
Mhm.
it's kind of just like stumbling into a lesson
Yeah.
and it is again kind of painful. I know exactly the feeling. That's why I stop asking people's opinions on my videos. And truth be told, it's probably better to get opinions. It definitely is better to spend
Mhm.
more time on a project and really try to say like what can be improved here and to get that feedback. But it's just funny that you mentioned like, yeah, they're gonna be like, yo, this video is top notch, this is a banger. And it's like, all right, well, there's some things to improve, turns out.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, oh man, like they don't know what they're talking about, and I was like, all right, maybe I should just try it, you
Mm.
know. And then I was like, as I was working on it, I was like, fuck, this is gonna be better. And again, like I mean, it blew. I mean, where I just checked, like it's at like 3.8K
That's
now.
that's
My
really
my
good.
subscribers tripled from the video, and like I think in terms of like long term future for video editing, like I'm always gonna be a player first, but like this passion project and like creative outlet is like so fun when I like get into the right headspace for it. And I feel like I can confidently say I made a video that hasn't ever existed in the like
No,
montage space
between
ever,
between you
and
and
I'm
me,
really proud of that.
between you and me, we've seen a lot of melee videos, so I think
Yeah, there are a lot.
I think we might have missed about 10%, and there might be some poorly edited one that uses soccer, but in terms of kind of the niche you hit and the quality of it, it was welcome. And the reason that video popped off wasn't just as I said, like I don't know if my phrasing was weird when I messaged you. I was so excited when I saw how
I think
well
I
it
knew
did.
what you meant, but continue.
My
I definitely knew what you meant.
Yeah, my point was like, dude, okay, yeah, 4K. At the time it was like two and a half thousand.
Yeah, yeah.
After 5 days, and I'm like, yo, this is really good, especially because you have no subscribers. Like, and it's a weird way to compliment because you have to take it in stride. Because like, if you saw a
No,
video
I
that was like
agree.
4,000 by someone with 80,000 subscribers, you'd be like, yo, So everyone gets it, but I think the just the fact that it was good, and this is not your first good video either. It's like it's an idea that you've been able to take, and you did have a late night with it, didn't you? That first night you did kind of.
Oh, dude, I did like yeah, like three. Like I slept at three like two
Yeah.
nights in a row. I
So
went full into it.
yeah, I was about to say you didn't hyper focus on it, but you did. So maybe the healthiness of your video editing could be
Well,
improved, but
quick tangent is like I felt like that wasn't like the ADHD hyperfocusness, and I was talking to Pilar about this. It was just the sheer excitement. And yes, did it
okay.
bring my ADHD tendencies in? Yes, 100%. Like, of course.
Sometimes it's a
But
superpower.
yeah, but it was like I was taking Vyvanse and like all that, and like honestly, it was just the sheer excitement and passion I had for this video
Gotcha.
that
Yeah.
like kept me up at 3.
It's just so interesting to me. I can't do late nights. Like I just can't. My idea of being really excited about something is like, well, now it's starting at 8 a.m., but it's
Mhm.
getting up in the morning and just cranking it out at dawn. That's
Mm.
literal opposite pendulum there for what I get it. I get that impulse. And shit, man, like I just really am impressed by your relationship with video editing because we've talked about this before. I won't harp, but when it comes to content and how being in the melee community, we see people make careers out of it. We see a lot of potential for it, and sometimes there's a I'm trying to find the right words here. I'm trying to speak very specifically on this. Sometimes there's an urge to over dedicate to content, which
Mm.
is an urge I personally have had to manage and hedge the bushes on my relationship with that. And so it's really cool to see somebody, and let alone a friend, find a pretty cool relationship with content where, you know, you could, I'm assuming you could go months without making anything and no skin off your back. Like, if you don't
Yeah,
care,
yeah.
if you don't have any ideas you're excited about, like, you know, whatever, you know, it's not a big deal.
Low key, yeah, you're correct. Yeah,
You
you're
know,
100% right about that.
whether or not that happens, it doesn't matter. It's not like you need to take break. It's not like you need to grind. And having the relationship stem from the idea itself and from the wanting to make a cool thing rather than just make anything. I think that's a lesson. I think that can be taken in anyone's lifestyle, where, like, just make sure you're doing something for the right reasons, I guess, is the general way to put it. And kind of how I would wrap up the segment. But final thoughts for you.
Yeah. Final thoughts. It's funny you mentioned that, because I was thinking about it too, where it's like, yeah, like I could do this again, or like I have other ideas, other sports, like sports X melee type ideas and stuff like that. And like, I think I was talking about this with Joe, and it's really interesting because it's like this is really awesome, but it's not really awesome because of like the number of views or the mostly really nice comments. And side tangent is, the comments that are mean are hilarious. They always make me chuckle.
Okay.
Because I'm like, that's the point of the video. They're like, too much soccer commentary. I'm like, that's the point of the video. You know?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, you know, but in the end, like, this is just like specifically content creation, I think, is like specifically like just a creative outlet for me. Like, there's no means to an end. And I was talking about this with Joe, where it's like, I have a lot of ideas, and ideas are great, but like action is the important thing. And it's like, do I feel like I want to do it, put it out there and stuff like that? And I know that like, as I continue, there will be moments where I like keep on releasing videos, like the Footsie's guidebook. Like, that's a long-term project that like is slowly going to get released over time for me. Right. But it's not something where I'm like it's more for me, I think, and that's really the cool thing about it, is I don't feel like I'm making the video for anything else besides the like, I don't see this in the melee space, and I care enough to want to put it out there, and I care that it's of good quality in my head, and I think that's like all that matters, and like why I'm not like even like jumping on the like, okay, what's my next like great big video type thing, you know? And it's like, in the end, I just want to still be nervous about playing in bracket and stuff like that, first and foremost. And when I get the groove to put out a video like every month, or like a video a month would be like kind of nice for me, I think. Like, but I don't want to give myself a timeline like that, because I feel like that just like sullies the passion that goes into the videos that I make. But it's always something special, and I always learn, and I always believe that the next video is my best one yet. And I think I really love that, just for like my own personal like endeavors and like personal passion project, being, you know, a scientist and not someone who really was big into music or the arts or anything growing up. So like having this be kind of like this like unsullied creative outlet is really special for me. And those are my kind of closing thoughts.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I think if we're going to talk about creative outlets here, I think we had a pretty creative commentary duo going on the Sunday. God, what's the tournament? Sunday Beatdown?
Wait,
yeah.
Is it? I'm pretty sure it's Sunday Beatdown. Yeah, it is. Sunday Beatdown. Yes, it is.
I'm always so focused. I haven't tweeted about it yet. I just am very focused on the work. So let's take a step back. Let's remind anyone. Will and I, Wassabi and I, have been doing a commentary duo for 2 times over 3 weeks, but it's going forward to be a consistent thing. And Will,
update next week, baby.
Yeah. So Will had weekend before last with Kemwar, and they talked about that in the last pod, so check that out if you're interested. And this week it was Mother's Day, so I wasn't able to do top 8. So we did some pools, and maybe like one match of top 8 winners quarters or something. I don't know.
No, we saw winners semis. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. So yeah, we did mostly pools. And the long tail of this is another just process thing. I'm just excited to continue to do this, to have this be a weekly thing, to finally feel like commentary isn't a sacrifice. To,
Mm.
you know what I mean? Because I'm not
It's
sacrificing.
perfect
It
timing, dude.
really is.
What
Sunday
a way to like
afternoon.
wake up. Like what a way to wake up and just like commentate matches and know that you can't enter that tournament.
Yeah,
Oh,
dude. It's
it's
like
so nice. It's
it
so nice.
and you know, again, the team that we're working with, the TOs, are just so competent. They're so good at what they do. It's just a very well well managed and respected local that obviously we didn't know much about before we started doing commentary. But then you start and you're like, shit, all these players are really good. You know, all the matches we're seeing are
Yeah.
they're in a really good sweet spot where, you know, it's not like we're watching None versus HBox, obviously, like there's only one, but the quality is and that's actually a good thing, because the quality is at this part where we're learning about it. We're able to learn about matchups through this play, and we also have, you know, opportunities to contribute and to be, you know, maybe there are things that, like, if the players were to go back and look, we might be able to point out one or two things, or we can latch on a subject that we are currently going through at our own stage of playing the game, and that makes it just better commentary. I think if you could actually sit there and be excited and be like, oh my god, they did that they did jump cancel shine near the ledge, I've been practicing that, like, this is the benefit, or whatever we happen to see, and Melee's endless, so this is going to keep happening. It's just such a juicy, like, I just can't wait to get in there every week, and to have top 8 be what we're going to commentate is like, I'm just amped. And you know, I want to hear your thoughts, and then we should do a little bit of debrief on how we did, because
Yeah.
the other side of that is, as a duo, we are still pretty new. We're going to find
Yeah.
things that we can improve at. So how was commentating, first and foremost?
I thought it was really good. I think it was interesting doing pools where, you know, like, it's sometimes the matches are a little bit more like, I felt like it taught me a lot. Like, it was a really good learning experience where, like, the matches were a little bit more one-sided. It was just hard to, like, explain certain decisions that some players made and stuff like that.
Sure.
And so really trying to, like, still keep an even keel narrative throughout, and, like, but still while being honest and being like, yeah, like, I'm not seeing this. I think there's just so much to learn. So I'm really excited that, like, this top 8 moving forward, Sunday Beatdown on the EU scene, can be our playground to both, you know, give something back to the community and learn about players that we've never heard of before, and also enjoy their gameplay and just kind of improve as commentators. I really liked it, honestly. Like, kind of going into the debrief of it, like, I thought we did overall really, really well. I think, like, there were some aspects where, like, just the matches, just especially in pools, the matches just, like, moved like lightning.
Sure.
And that was definitely very different from when I did it with Kemore. Shout outs Kemore, of course, for top 8. But overall, I think it's just like we're still trying to figure out, like, our identity. And it's interesting because as we're doing more commentary, I'm actually, like, noticing more and more, like, commentary stuff, like, while listening to Melee. Like even while watching SCL, I'll be like, wow, like, how did Slime cover that in that amount of time? Or like, wow, like, he just made a joke, and I'm not saying I'm trying to be like Slime. I mean, I think he's etched himself as, like, a commentator great in the Melee scene.
Yep,
for sure.
for sure.
But I think, like, and I made a tweet about it, replying back to Cal Aiden's tweet about Slime's commentary. But, you know, I'm just shocked by, like, how good the commentators are in SCL, and, like, I'm just actually, like, arguably sometimes listening to that more than the set is
Sure.
going on in the moment, because I know that I'm gonna want to, like, analyze SFAT versus Plup or SFAT versus Wizzy, you know, in detail. But when I'm watching, I'm just, like, trying to be like, oh, like, how are they covering this topic? Or, like, oh, they're not talking about the game, but they're talking about, like, something funny, and just kind of, like, noticing and picking up on that. And it's really interesting. I think commentary is so interesting, and it kind of begs the question of, like, what is our style, like, gonna evolve into as we practice more, like, for fun. Because I kind of just randomly wanted to learn more about the StarCraft scene. There's, like, a 4-part doc, 30 minutes each, of, like, StarCraft, like this. It's called the Sons of StarCraft that I just finished watching, and it actually just is Tasteless and Artosis' journey from players and commentators, and it's super super sick.
Send
And
me
most
that.
of it was about commentary actually, which was great, and I learned a lot from it. I will send that to you.
I like Artosis.
Yeah, and I think like it just was like, wow, like these guys were like melee greats. How did they do it? But also like, oh, we definitely can't do like it like that. Like I think, and it's really interesting because like what we have, I think, in a more meta sense is like we're good friends for one, and I think that makes a big difference. They even say it in the doc. You know, being friends with a person is super good. But I think like like it's almost like I feel like I was thinking about this. We almost replaced their jokingness in game with like retrospective self-reflection.
Yeah, yep. It's so
and,
stupid.
and I'm like, I'm totally fine with that. And like, could we add like a little bit more like funny, haha, like type stuff? Like, sure, but like I feel like that like it needs to happen naturally, and that's only going to happen as we get better with the game, as we get more familiar with the players, also in the community, and that just comes with time, right? Like we just are still trying to learn who Aberv is, for example, and Sharp and
Right.
etc. But yeah, those are kind of like my overall thoughts. But it's an exciting journey to be able to like regularly practice it.
Yeah. Oh my god. And speaking on that last point, where the jokiness, right? Where that's been an instinct I have in every social situation. I'm that guy. I self-proclaimed.
Yeah, you are more that guy for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I want to be a comedian, right? And it's just part of my blood to make jokes all the time. I think what leads my commentary style to diverge or maybe trim or hedge that side of myself. One, I think when we do this more and more with these guys, I'm going to be more comfortable to take risks like that. Because my joke, my it's going to sound so lame talking about the jokes one person makes, but whatever.
Yeah.
What I find funny is like, kind of sometimes tickling the line of kind of what people expect there to be said, and sometimes it's a little jarring, and sometimes it can be tasteless if I overshoot and if I make a bad joke. That I don't have an off-color like comedy style, but that is a risk where if I get into a jokey mood, that's the downside, is sometimes I can put people off. And so one of my pet peeves in commentary is I think commentators should bring dignity to what they're doing, and I think we do. That is absolutely the note we're hitting, is we are here, we respect the game, the players, the tournament, the positions we're in. I think we even explicitly say shit like that.
No, I mean, I specifically, I mean, that's again like our bit was like I called out like, yeah, I know I'm saying what like I think they could be doing, but like understand that is literally our job as commentators, and like our mental stack isn't like, ah shit, like it's last stock game 5.
Right. And truth be told, I really do think that's one of our strengths, is that's our like baseline, that's our foundation, is coming in with that respect. So I do agree that I don't think we're stiff, I just think we're so earnest. Like we're just,
yes, exactly, I agree with that.
Just so like, oh, I'm so happy we're here watching pools in a like in a weekly tournament. We are so honored. I know they don't have anyone commentating top 8 and they don't give a shit, but we're just so happy they chose us to fill the gap of nobody. Like, you know what I mean? It's just...
I agree with that, but I think that's like the genuine part about it. I also think like I know, and it's funny though. It's very funny. It is very funny. I like that. I think it's interesting, especially being like your foil to things with humor.
Yeah,
because truthfully, like it's just like, I mean, we've talked about this. You can crack a joke when we're like 4 beers in, and it will still go over my head, and I'll get suddenly very serious, and that's just me. And I think like very similar to like, again, like very similar to video editing, where it's like I'm always looking how to improve, but like there's just an aspect of myself that I like can't remove. And I think like that's part of it too.
It's
and
a charm.
So I'm just trying
trust me, it's charming.
What? Thank you. Aw. But I think like that's the thing where I'm like, that's the thing that I don't necessarily like. I'm just like, well, I can't like, I'm not just like the like, oh, like again, like Slime said, like, yeah, it's like using two people using the same toilet just right between the legs, and that I was dying when
Oh,
he
I
said
talk
that
about that all the
commentary.
time, man. I ask my girlfriend to do that all the time. One day.
Oh, one day,
That's so
relationship
funny he said
goals.
that. I can't believe he used that because that's
I
a
thought he, yeah.
mental image I've had in my head for years. But go on.
Anyway, but it's just interesting because like, again, we have to carve out like our own like vibe and back and forth, and I think that's really interesting because like through this podcast and partially why our like commentary has been good off the get-go is like we both know us like this podcast pretty much has like explored who we are as people on a lot of different levels,
Hmm.
right? And so there's no questioning who we are really, but it's more of like how do we make it work and like refine it in a more commentary style, right? And I think that's just really what it is, and kind of my final thoughts on it, and that just comes with time, and it's exciting to kind of like start that.
Yeah. Well, I'll give some final thoughts too because we have two more pretty juicy
Yeah,
topics. This is a great episode, man.
yeah, and talk about topics. Yeah, we should get going. I got therapy in 30 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. No, we'll be done in 30 minutes. Trust me.
All right, sick.
So, final thoughts on commentary. I think of it. The metaphor that came to my head is like you and I have stepped into a dig site, an archaeological dig site, and there are three kind of stones that are jutting out of the ground, right? And we kind of have a choice, like which stone are we going to work on? Because that we do have a little bit of choice, but we don't have of who we want to be. I'm trying to say like what we're going to turn into, what a refined product is going to look like. We can kind of pick a direction. We could say I want to focus on these sort of things. I want to be this kind of person and work towards that and have that be our week over week focus. But you know the basics of it are like this is our dig site. This is who we are. We don't have a choice in who we are at this point. We're 25, 26 years
We're
old.
long gone. Yeah.
Yeah, and so unless we want to spend a few years finding a completely different dig site, this is what we're stuck with. We got like 5 options max.
Yeah.
So we just got to pick a thing and just start plugging away and delicately like extract this stone, this fossil, whatever you want to call it. And over time, as we refine it and we use our tools and we brush it up, it's going to turn into something that we can be really proud of. And it's going to be, it's just like any long-term goal. It's going to be an output of our short-term goals of what we work on. So let's say one sentence I want to ask you.
Holy shit, I was literally gonna say the same thing, JD.
There you go.
Like, what the fuck?
What's one thing
No,
you want to work on? Yeah.
Shit, JD, this is exactly what I was gonna ask you.
Well, too bad.
Fucking damn
Well, you have to answer it first for next week.
Okay. Yeah, one thing as a duo or one thing as a... I think as a duo would be interesting. By the
Sure.
way.
Well, whatever. Yeah.
It's a mix. Okay, I
Yeah.
have my answer regardless.
Okay, go for it.
I think... So for me, the one thing I think we should and I want to work on is like being able to make the sound bites. Like at the critical moments, despite us being in the middle of a sentence, despite us being in the middle of a different topic, I want us to be able to switch and bring that energy when the game tells us to on screen.
Wow. Okay. That's gonna be tough online. We'll have to. I have thoughts on that. We'll talk after. So for me, I want to focus on something very different, but being able to talk to TOs and do background stuff while still listening to what you're doing. Because there were a few points where I don't think it was your eyes' fault because we had to take care of something. Either like audio was screwed up or, we had to communicate that it was our last set. There's just that's going to happen. And I would like get the message out and I would come back and you'd be finishing a thought. And the only thing I would have to contribute is like, yeah, you're right, man. I agree. And then like into the set. And I had no idea what the fuck you just said. So
that's a good one.
I think those two things, like I do like the idea of sound bites because that's really important. Those are what gets like taken out of sets sometimes and adds a lot of value to the scene. So cool.
Yep.
All right.
All
Speaking of adding value.
Yes. Speaking of adding value, this has been a big announcement alert, long time coming.
Go for it. It's all you.
Yeah. So JD and I have been talking, and we want to do a lot more with this podcast. We want to provide more value to all the listeners and viewers, and we were trying to think of how we can reasonably do it along with just like balancing our adult lives, like just our adulting life, right? Especially because I'm going to be starting work in 2 weeks, and what we kind of came up with is that to improve the podcast, to get the like even like an extra editor for audio stuff to produce more short form content, it's time to launch the Wannabes Patreon.
Yep.
And this is literally everything is going to be done to improve on this podcast, to build on it, to build more different forms of content. And while we are we won't get into too specifics about like the tiers and stuff like that, but like it's to provide more value for the listeners, right? And we've been building this community, and I think it's about time where I think JD and I, we had a tough talk where it was like, yeah, to be able to push it, we just really just need to kind of like build the team up a little bit more, get an extra editor, so that the ideas that we shout about and get hype about on like every other episode can actually like come to fruition and be tangible videos in the melee content space. And again, like the goal isn't much. It's literally just to like help with like an extra video or two, like once a month, really. And I think like it's thanks to all the listeners in the community on our Discord and stuff like that, just kind of showing that like we are growing and we want to be able to provide more for everyone. And that's why I'm excited to kind of like announce it, right? And it was a long time coming. I mean, before we thought we were ready, and then we launched the Discord, and that was exactly what we needed at the time.
Yeah. Oh
But
man,
it's time. Yeah.
it's really exciting. And the few call outs I want to off the bat talk about is we are setting this up to be able to kind of work like a camel, where if it's dry season and we launch and not a lot of people are in the position to contribute, or they're waiting to see what happens, or they just don't care, right? Whatever it may be. Let's say we don't have a lot of people, maybe it's like $2 a month even. We're setting it up to be like, okay, great, $2 a month. You know what that means? In 4 months we'll be able to hire an editor, or it'd be more like 8 months at that point, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, we just want to make more stuff, because we have a lot of raw material that we've been kind of cranking out for a while, and that generates ideas that we've had over time. And I think a credit to ourselves is that we've been able to understand what our capacity is, because I've definitely gone back and forth with like, I'm gonna go so hard on the Wannabes now, like I got this time, I want to work on it. And same thing with how sometimes I feel with Melee. It's just, that's not how my brain works. Like, I do love what we do. I can't put 10 hours, 15 hours a week at it. That's just not what I got. And, if we're able to kind of crowdsource that, it's really crowdsourcing energy. You put a little, like $2 in, $1 in, whatever you feel comfortable. We'll have incentives for sure.
And fun tiers too.
Yeah.
And new stuff. We'll bring in new stuff to the table.
Yep.
For sure.
Yep. Like one very small minor thing, like if you pay $1, I'm going to start using it as a blog, right? That's like one of 10, 15 things that we have planned, but it's just, access and man, I'm really putting on my salesman hat here. I'm just pumped, right?
Yeah. If I can jump in a little bit,
do.
I think like also like you brought up an interesting point, is like we kind of are aware of our like capacity, and like I think like I have to say, like I have to give us like a pat on the back, like for like continuing to like put out stuff, moving into the YouTube realm consistently, and like even doing stuff like I want to do more of like the 1v1 interview highlights like we did for Tiramisu. And just truthfully, like understanding that like we both don't have like the bandwidth to like do that on top of our like weekly stuff, and like if we put more time into the Wannabes, that takes away from like us as people, and as a result also would then take out about like a lot of the topics that we talk about on a weekly basis.
How ironic, right?
Right. And I think part of being an adult is like just like understanding that like you can't do everything on your own, and understanding like where the line is. And I just have to say, like I think like we've had backs and forths about it, like privately, JD, right? Like where it's like you want to go fully in, and I'm like, I don't know, man. Like I got a lot of life stuff. I'm moving cross country. I'm trying to learn this controller, and like without compromising like ourselves and our own goals, like it just feels like we are definitely at like at a very stable but max capacity for what we can do with this channel without like a little extra fuel, as you put it.
Sure.
And I think that's really why we're announcing it and then talking about it again. Like it's obviously getting very, very meta as always, and it is something really exciting that we are really excited about. And we'll give in more detail as like when the page launches and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it just felt time to kind of like put it out there, and I'm really excited to see like what new content we can bring. And I think that's the really interesting part about it, is like this is to put out new stuff. This isn't to like sustain what we're doing now. Like even if the Patreon's a flop, we're going to be doing these regular weekly podcasts and running the Discord just like we always do.
Yep.
Because it's good for the soul.
Yeah. And so I like the way you put it. It's just, if we were to put more in, we'd be taking some out. It would be a kind of a net neutral exchange in terms of just quality of the podcast. Because we'd be editing stuff, and then we'd come in and we'd talk about editing stuff. It would get more meta. How's that even possible?
Yeah. Besides, I know everyone here just wants to see JD Wassabi top 100. That is the ultimate. That is why we started it. We have to finish it, JD. And I can't be editing as much as Walt does and become top 100 personally.
Yeah.
Personally,
and
I can only 4 hours into the game once I start work.
I can't be top 100 if I don't have a creative side project and am taking care of myself. That's my style, and it's going to be in 2 years. Don't worry, but I've adapted my goal. By the way, I'm totally convinced you're going to hit top 100 a year before me, but I'm happy if I can meet or exceed your position when I make it the year after. So I'm looking for you. I hope you get like 93rd, and I'll be like, all right, dog, top 90, and I could just like. I could rub it in.
That's good. All right, let's do it. I think that's perfect. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love a little competition.
But then I'm gonna chalk that up to an absolute win. I'm gonna be like, who cares what year it was, bro? You know what I mean?
That's so funny. Yeah, you're just like, yeah, the year I did it was way harder, and I still got a better number. Yeah, that's funny. On top of I still have my running bet with Edwin Button for melee stats.
Yep.
So whenever IRL comes in, that's when the clock starts ticking again for me.
We got some stakes, but I hear the alarm. Let's pop into these questions. We hit the Patreon.
Yes, that is perfect.
It's not launching.
Let's get into it.
Making that clear, it's not launching. Maybe this month it might launch, but I think we're looking for June, early June.
Yeah.
So
yeah, what about Wassabi birthday launch? My birthday's June 13th. Let's do it.
Man, that's a Sunday. That might be optimal. We'll talk.
All right. Question time, though. We got a few fire questions.
Let's do it.
Let me read it off. There's as always 2 quick fires, one hard hitting one. Ready?
Go.
So we'll start with the quick fires. When was the longest and shortest you've had your hair? So for me, longest about 3 months ago. It was about like to my shoulders, and I didn't like it because apparently when my hair grows, it curls in. And that's really annoying. I thought it was going to be straight. Shortest was when I was a kid, where every Asian gets a buzz cut. I feel like Asian men go through the same evolution like Pokemon. They start off with a buzz cut, then they eventually discover gel, and they go spiky. Then they get tired of that in high school, and they go faux hawk for a very brief moment. Then they discover pomade, and they go parted to the side. That's it. That's my stereotype Asian hair joke that I always make.
Well, I like it a lot. It was refined.
Thank you.
You definitely workshopped that one.
Yeah. Hey, personal experience. Freshman Wassabi had a faux hawk, so
we got to get these jokes in the repertoire, man. We got to make our commentary funnier.
Yeah, keep it snappy. Let's hear about your hair, Jaden.
Yeah. So real quick, when longest, I had to do it for a play I was in. I was playing a teenage boy, so they had me. I was like playing a 17-year-old. Grew a hair out. God, it was going down to, like, this is where it is now. It was like here. It was rough. I have some pictures for sure. And I had to grow it out. That was the rule. And it wasn't growing out specifically for it. They just needed to cut it in a very specific way, like a day before we opened. So What are you gonna do? I looked like shit. So that was that, and then shortest, I would say again a buzz cut, right? But
Oh, I remember that. I remember Buzzcut JD.
yeah, that I had. I don't remember the last time before this most recent time, which was last December for my grandfather's wake. I buzzed it because he would always buzz cut my hair and then pay me $20, and it became this very
Aw.
strange ritual where I was like, you know what? No one gets buzz cuts anymore. I'm just gonna, I don't look great. It grows in like shit, like.
Yeah, yeah.
But he's paying me $20, and I'm, 12. So I ended up
Oh, that's
taking
cute.
taking that blood money for a while. Um, so in his honor, I got a buzz cut, and I remember coming out of the salon, the parlor, and Ashley picked me up, and when she saw me, her eyes were like, oh, like
That's
she
funny.
was aghast at my fucking haircut. Yeah, shortest, longest. What's next? What do you got?
Nice. Next one. Have we ever had natural peanut butter? You know, like the one where the oil separates from the peanuts.
Yeah,
No,
that's good.
dude.
No,
That
I've had it. It's just not good.
what? I love that shit, dude.
It's
That's
been a
that's the
while.
good stuff.
I mean,
That's the good stuff.
it was when I was eating a
Anyway,
lot of peanut butter, and so I needed some peanut butter, but there was no sugar in it. I'm like, this sucks.
what? No, that's the best. You want just all the nuttiness.
Whatever.
But
I'm an adult
anyway,
now.
yeah, yeah. You just go to Whole Foods in a year.
Okay.
There's the JD delay on a will rec. It
Well,
takes at least 6 months.
yeah, I need 6 recommendations. That was my first.
First one, fair, fair. All right, hard hitting question. We got a hot 12 minutes to do this.
Cool.
Solo melee practice was recently described to me as a meditative action, almost like a comfort food that allows one to reset a little bit. Does this resonate with either of you? And again, shout outs to Cypher for all of these fire questions. Gotta always do our plug on the bottom of Smash Mountain podcast.
Oh yeah, BSM
But
Pod. Thank you for
yeah,
your questions and your feedback. As always, Cypher, you're the man.
absolute legend.
Yeah.
But we got 11 minutes now.
Let's say okay.
Why don't you hit it first? Because I feel like I probably would have more to say.
I mean, first off, I super disagree with the comfort food analogy. I don't know if that's accurate at all. I would say it's more like eating almonds or a nice little like vegetable platter, because a melee practice to me is it's right up there on my board with other things I want to do every day. It's something that I'm proud to do. It's something that I am, at the end of the day, if I had a good melee session, I'm like, good, I had a good melee session.
Mhm.
Comfort food is like, I kind of splurged, I had mac and cheese, whatever. So that's just, I need to call that out, right? Meditative act, it should be. I think good melee practice is. It's just tough to always have it be that quality because it's a video game. There's shiny stuff. There's distractions. There's ways to practice the game that are less optimal than what you need right now, but it might be something you're good at. And like multi-shining is the most classic example. That's not very meditative, I don't think. It's repetitive and you can get lost in it like doing the dishes, sure, but a mindful melee practice is to get better at melee. It's not to do the thing you like to do or something outside of what your goals are. And so like if you're outside of that, you're not being totally mindful, and if you're not being mindful, you can't really say it's meditative. So I know I really picked that apart because it's such a great question. Like that's how I think of it. But Will, I would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm kind of in the opposite when I break this question apart. For personal experience, melee solo practice is super crucial and meditative for me. I think like it like as you said, it especially lines up with like my goals also,
Mm-hmm.
and so there is like that fulfilling nature of it. But there was a time where like partially right after I moved to Massachusetts, all of a sudden, to stay with Pilar and then order the box. That kind of 1 month period between that where I like didn't really feel like playing on my controller because I knew I was going to be playing the box in like a month or so. Like I got really stir crazy, like with not practicing melee, like melee solo practice, like even just solo practicing, right? Because I didn't have net play in Massachusetts was so grounding for me. It actually was to the point where like my therapist was just like, bro, you should just probably play melee, you know? like you should just do something, because like playing Hades, grinding Hades, playing other video games, other fighting games even, just didn't like kind of hit the right chords for me, like in terms of like just making me feel better and more specifically grounded in a time and space where honestly my life was just very upsy turvy, right? Being unemployed and like deciding like last minute to just stay in Massachusetts and not going back home
That
for
sounds like
the
comfort
fall
food,
winter.
by the way.
Yeah, exactly. And so for me, I really resonate with that question because it is such comfort food for me, where I actually just need to like put in like at least like I would say arguably like 30-45 minutes where I'll like throw in some YouTube videos that I want to watch on my screen, maybe a podcast or two, or and then just like go through the reps of everything I want to practice to get better at the game. And it's just like is just kind of like this quiet morning where I actually just start my day like that. Like that is literally how I start my day. Like even now, even while I was working, I would like maybe answer a few emails, do a few things. Like, I filed some insurance claims like in the beginning of today, and I immediately went into solo practice. Like before I eat, before anything, I kind of just do that. And there's no other way to put it for me except that it just grounds me, and that's just kind of the thing that kind of like everything can be going wrong in the world, and it just like is the thing that kind of keeps me like even keel and like just helps me like just like be in my own head and quiet my mind and just like focus everything on like this is the game that I love and I get to like practice it.
Yeah, dude, I feel the same way recently. Doubles with Pig on,
Yeah.
unranked doubles is different. Um, but yeah, even Uncle Punch, I'm still throwing in, at times when I have it, and I think a lot of what I do agree with. I hope I didn't harp too much on what
No.
bad practice is, because
Yeah,
that
of
was kind
course.
of a focus of my answer. Is sometimes it's not meditative at all. Just because you are showing up and doing solo practice doesn't mean it's necessarily mindful. That's kind of my quick aside. But yeah, nowadays, it feels very similar to a lot of other things that I just want to get good at. It's just something I've done for 7 years. You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
it's like I feel very similar to when I look at my like little dumbbells and I just do like 3 sets of 10 or whatever of somewhat light, arm
Yeah.
exercises. And afterwards I'm like, okay, cool, And then I'm learning the piano again. I'm getting pretty consistent at getting my daily practice on the piano. I put on a timer, 15 minutes. 15 minutes is over. I'm like, cool, pretty good. And, and so I think if you can relate to, let's say you're a newer player. I know Cypher is dying to get good internet to become like the net play fiend he's born to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
But until that point, maybe solo practice is the only thing available. I would say that your relationship to it is very much going to be a meditative one. It could even have similar kind of one-to-one relations with literal meditation. Just close your eyes, breathing type meditative exercises, because um, keeping your focus on something and working out different things and all that stuff. Melee is a great um, outlet. Outlet's not the right word. A great whew.
Um, I think it's what you're trying to say is like a great like reminder to like be in the present,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
that's kind of what I see it as, because it's like to me solo practice, especially because it's something I've always done since the get-go, especially because like I mean we're from upstate New York, right? So it's a lot of solo practicing, especially with Fox, and that's the fun thing is Fox is really fun to solo practice,
indeed.
but like to me it's still it gives me the same feeling where I used to row on like the river, right? It'd be tough, it'd be but all my focus had to be on rowing.
Hmm.
Or when I did cross country, all my focus had to be in running, right? And there could be like I could be blasting music, I could do whatever, it could be tough, I could be sweating, breathing heavy, hating that I'm running, and stuff like that. But it's like it just brings me into the present moment. Like there could be stuff that I have to worry about afterwards, a job interview or an exam or whatever, but in that moment, for that 45 minutes to an hour, for me the only thing on my head is what I'm doing with this controller and in the game. and I think that's what like why it's so meditative for me personally, at least.
Yeah, I would go as far as to say that if you took out all the middle stuff, if solo practice is here and tournament play is over here, and you took out like unranked and even friendly sessions, and it's just solo practice and tournament, I think you could become a top 100 player. It's kind of an interesting take there because it'll slow you down a lot, but
Interesting take, yeah.
I think solo practice with the mindfulness of tournament play. I know we're wrapping up here. So I'll give you the final words here because I do think this is a ballpark question.
It is. I agree with that.
But yeah, that's my final thoughts. Is like it's very important. We talk about how important tournament is. I think it's on the same level as tournament practice.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what to say. It's just like part of like my being at this point that I like have to do it and want to do it. I mean, it literally like. I didn't have I'm just only saying this from personal experience. Like, I literally only had solo practice when, like, from fall and winter of 2020. And, like, that still, like, felt like enough melee for me. And that was so crazy. Granted, I was, like, learning the new controller, and so that was the exciting part about it. But, like, that was enough for me. And I think that says a lot. I mean, outside of that, I think it's just like anything else, some people it's like gardening or running, rowing, as I said, like there's just working out is a great one that everyone talks about, or cooking. Like, I think it's just like people have those certain things. And sometimes like for me, it's solo practicing.
Yeah. Well, there wouldn't be melee if we didn't, or it wouldn't be the Wannabes if we didn't relate melee to other things in life. Cause we try to be like, no, melee's normal. Even though we're absolute fiends and it's not normal at all.
I've given up. We're just melee fanatics. There's just nothing like it.
Nothing like it, man. But I don't think there's anything like this episode because we just like high octane.
Like, yeah.
We just kept our foot on the gas the whole time. We made all the turns too. Like we drifted and we didn't hit a wall, man. That was good shit.
And I said it was a big episode. We had a lot to talk about. So. And
you gotta go right on the money, dude. We did it. Congrats to us.
Yeah.
20 episodes into season 2. Pretty cool.
Into season 2, yeah. We're like little teaser down the line, JD. We're gonna need to talk live on the air. What qualifies as a new season? That's the overarching question.
Maybe if we do a live mailbag or something.
Maybe. But anyway, I got therapy. Peace out, everyone.
See you, Will.
JD.
Love you too, man. See you later.
Peace.